Hello and welcome to the post-match reaction to the Chiefs versus the Jaguares. It finished 19-23. I've not got the numbers the wrong way around. That is correct. The Jaguares beat the Chiefs. That's 4 games on the trot for the Jaguares. That is the first time they have ever won 4 games on the trot. Wow. Just wow, wow, wow. And then you're going to hear lots of wows during this show. Hi. Anyway, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for post-match reaction, predictions, and opinion. And joining me this evening is none other than Hugh. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And I've just noticed I've gone and put your label straight over your mouth. So in fact, if I move it up here, out of the way, people will be able to see your lips moving, which will be helpful. So I'll move mine up at the top as well. There we go. So, yes, folks, we are trying some brand new broadcast software, and hence the labels and some of the graphics. So we'll get on to that. But you know what? That's nowhere near as exciting as the rugby, because yes, wow, what? Hugh, did we get any early indicators from this, or was this a bit of a shock for you?
I must admit it was a bit of a shock for me, but that being their second win in a row against New Zealand teams in New Zealand, and apparently that's 6 wins from their last 8 games, I think it's fair to say that the Jaguares have arrived in Super Rugby, finally.
Yeah, 4 wins on the road, and then that is going to be a perfect tour. Even, just any side winning 4 out of 4 on the road is impressive. It's normally generally the Africa Conference teams that have to do that. The New Zealand and Australia sides never have to generally don't have to tour for 4 weeks on the trot. So that is a big result. And I say the other teams don't have that challenge that the South Africa Conference, that the Africa conferences do. So, yeah, amazing.
And especially Jaguares.
Especially
Jaguares. They travel more than anyone, don't they?
They travel more than anyone, and well, actually, you've got to say the Sunwolves also travel an awful lot as well. So both those teams, and also the Sunwolves, have to play 2 of their home games away from home, which is in Singapore and Hong Kong, which is just crazy. But let's not head down that rabbit hole straight away. Early doors, early error by the Chiefs straight off the kickoff, but they recovered from that. I went down to camp into the Jaguares 22. The first penalty, they kicked to the corner. They failed to score. The commentators and everyone goes, oh, well, they're going to kick to the corner again. And they don't. They go for 3. I mean, wow, that's where did that come from?
Well, with the great benefit of hindsight, obviously, and their line-out not working particularly well, perhaps one could argue it was a smart move.
Yes, I mean, it clearly was a smart move in the end because, as you say, they were struggling in the line-out, and they didn't actually score until after the hooter. Sorry, spoiler alert there. So clearly it was the way this game was going to go. They realised they weren't breaking through the Jaguares' defence. The Jaguares' defence was absolutely solid, and so hence they went for the 3. And it's a trend that we've seen over the past, I guess it's 4 or 5 weeks now. We shouldn't be getting so surprised about it. But I guess the Chiefs aren't known for kicking 3s, and so that was a bit of a surprise. The Jaguares then camp in the Chiefs 22. They take a kick for goal, and they hit the post.
It was a really interesting opening 30 to 40 minutes of play, I thought. Both sides able to hold on to the ball actually for quite long periods of time. 10 phases plus, very forward orientated, very good defence in the midfield from both teams.
Absolutely, and I was a bit amazed, and the Jaguares went very narrow, very pick and goes. I had a quick look at the stats at this point. So on about 30 minutes, the Jaguares had 12 passes for 22 runs. They'd figured out that was where they were going to target the Chiefs, and they really went for it at that point. What amazes me, and we'll talk about this more, I guess, in the second half, is that they actually went away from that, and by the end of the game, they passed it 131 times for 109 runs. So they tried to play a lot more expansive as the game went on, but early doors, it was pick and go, tire the defence, make them make lots of tackles, and it worked for them early. Worked for them then. They got the second penalty, but it was back on the halfway line, and that was some monster kick that they put over from there.
It was a huge kick by Buffelli. Great kick.
And you'd think with that kind of kick, the Chiefs would have known they had to behave themselves, but yeah, discipline wasn't their strong point tonight.
It wasn't, but I think in the end, from memory, the penalty count actually evened out by the end. But early on, certainly their discipline was not nearly as good as the Jaguares.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up giving up 10 penalties to the Jaguares 11, but still, if someone's knocking them over from the halfway line, that basically means you can't give up penalties in your own half. It's something that Mornay Stern's done for South Africa. You've seen Australia, your home team, trying to do that with Hodge as well. I don't think they really learnt properly from that. The Chiefs, they couldn't give up penalties, and I think that came back.
Don't tell Jess that.
Well, yes, Jess is going to be very upset at this point, and I know that she is blaming the referee on Twitter. And we'll come
as
back.
Is every Chiefs fan, from what I've seen.
We'll come back to that later, but because I think the blame is mainly around the second half rather than the first half. The Jaguar, and as there's more to talk about in the second half, let's speed on through the first. Scrum penalty, DMAC knocks it over. Nothing sort of much there. I mean, the restart spills, that kind of stuff just happens. But the Jaguares were looking good under the high ball when they were putting it up and challenging it, I found, in that first half, really putting the Chiefs under some good pressure.
They did, and Ngatai especially looked quite uncomfortable at times underneath those.
And he's not really a fullback. I know he's been played there because of the concussion issues, but he's a centre. And centres, let's be honest, don't have to handle the high ball that much. He is effectively someone who's learning a new trade at the back there, and I'm becoming less of a fan of it as the season goes on.
He had a tough game, I thought, and as you say, he's playing out of position. He's missed a lot of rugby. He did make obviously a very good run in that second half at one point, but apart from that, I thought he had a fairly average game.
Yeah, and I've not actually looked at his stats, but we'll just quickly bring them up. I think actually attacking with ball in hand in the line, he's looked fine, even though 6 runs, 22 metres, nothing special there. It's more under that high ball and positioning that I have concerns. And when you look at the tackling, you can see why he's been put back there. He had to make one tackle. He tried to make 2 tackles in this game. He made one, missed one. But then if we look through the rest of the backs, Pulu made 5, missed 2. Leonard Brown made 7, missed 1. Nakivelli made 13, missed 2. Alimano on the other wing made 5, missed 2. So all the other guys have had to make quite a number of tackles for the backs. Clearly they're hiding Ngatai away from that kind of contact because of his head injury issues.
Yeah, which really is probably fair enough. And talking about the missed tackles, I think the Chiefs missed almost double the amount of tackles that the Jaguares did. So it's a big stat there.
No, absolutely. And I was going to get onto that at half-time because I got the half-time stats are pretty impressive. But on 26 minutes, Tukelet makes a great break. He uses the support as a dummy, actually. I thought it was very clever. He could see that the player wasn't going to break away. Dummy to him, just give himself a couple maybe an extra second. Let that guy come around and clear out. Spin the ball wide, and the Jaguares got the first try of the game, and the only try in the first half out there. There was some really good attacking play by the Jaguares in that first half, in that sort of 20 to 40 minutes session, and that's where they kind of got a little bit of a gap that the Chiefs eventually managed to claw back.
Yeah, it was some great attacking from in their own half actually, and from memory it was a turnover from the Chiefs, a long ball by Ngatai to, I think it was one of the props, I can't remember which one, dropped it, and then that great run by Tukelet. As you say, he showed a lot of composure to hold on and not try to push a pass, take the tackle, and then spun it wide and a great try.
And that gave them the lead at 6:10, and I think that's when the alarm bells started to ring. And it wasn't so much the scoreline, but more the fact that they could score a try, and the Chiefs really were struggling to score, really struggling to get that penetration. And you're like, where are the tries going to come from the Chiefs? It's going to be a moment of magic, because we haven't seen it for the first half hour of this game. They went on to get 2 more penalties in that half to claw things back. But yeah, in that first half, you couldn't really see where the Chiefs were going to score.
No, and I think you could see a bit of frustration starting to creep in. More of that in the second half, obviously, but I think it was starting to creep in. As you say, they were probably a little bit concerned. We saw quite a few different line-out variations to try and combat the issues that they were having there, with a short throw, a couple of 4-mans, and so on. Whereas the Jaguares were a lot more composed. They looked like that they had a game plan, and they were really sticking to it in that first half.
Yeah, and one of the things we've seen in this year's competition is that we've had a lot of scores from first phase, from lineouts. And if you're having to shorten the lineout, then you're putting a lot more defenders into that midfield, making it much harder to get that try from the first line, from the first phase. And that probably was part of it. The Chiefs lost 4 lineouts in the end in this one, of their 16 that they had to take. So they lost a quarter of their lineouts, which at this level is criminal. We've seen it from a couple of teams recently, but yeah, that's really going to hurt you if you can't control that part of the game. And as I say, they had to shorten it, which cut down their options, which was not a good look. They did lead 12-10 at half time, with a penalty after the hooter. The commentators suggested, perhaps they'll kick it out and turn around and play. Like, really? You've got possession. You're on the halfway line. This is a New Zealand side that are behind by 1 point. They're going to play here. Try and get the opposition to come offside and kick the 3, which is exactly what happened. But the key stat, and you had talked about this earlier, was tackling. 49 made out of 57 attempts by the Chiefs at 86%. That's pretty good. But the Jaguares made 71 of their 74 tackles in that first half. They missed just 3 tackles, a 96% rate. That's where this game was won and lost. We'll talk about scores and discipline, all this kind of stuff. But it's that tackling that won this game, and that is phenomenal.
It is absolutely fantastic effort by the Jaguares at 96%. I probably don't look at the stats quite as closely as you might, but I would think that's very rare, that higher percentage.
I mean, getting over 90 is very rare. Getting over 95, which is what they've done here, that's just unheard of. Now they dropped off in the second half and ended up with an 84% tackle rate. They got tired, and you could see that, especially during that last quarter.
Yep, and 4th game on tour, that's going to do it to you.
It is, absolutely. And when teams are trying to spread it around more, they're also going to go. They're going to try and stretch you more as well, which is what the Chiefs were trying to do. Start the second half, offside penalty allows the Jaguares to take the lead again by 1 point. I'm going to run through these because basically it's all irrelevant, these next 2 scores, until we get to the yellow card. DMAC then bounces one off the post, but it was a very good chase, which kept it kept the ball down there, but the Chiefs couldn't take advantage of it. Just one lovely moment of skill by Damon McKenzie scooping the ball up during a breakdown of play. So there were some lovely moments in this game that perhaps didn't actually get any reward, but it was just lovely to see that kind of stuff going on.
He can show amazing skills at the most unexpected times. He really is a special talent. Is the New Zealand press starting to come around to the idea of him playing at 10, or is there still a bit of debate about that?
I think there's still some debate about that, but clearly from a All Blacks coaching point of view, there's no debate at all. He is going to be the second choice, number 10, or so he's going to be in that 22 or 23 jersey to cover scrum half and fullback, which allows them then to play a specialist centre, which they have in both Sonny Bill Williams and Lau Mappy, who can't play anywhere else. But they want those two players, I think, are key to the All Blacks game plan, and so they need to have someone like Damon McKenzie who can cover more options, whereas Richard Mo'unga is a 10 and a 10 and just a 10. Lovely,
a very good 10, but
fantastic 10. But he is a 10. He's not. I can't remember seeing him play 15 or cover the wings, which Damon McKenzie can do. Mark 10, missing Kane, missing Brodie. Yes, those are two massive games two massive players that they're missing. One was planned, one wasn't. Kane was injured. Brodie Retallick wasn't initially even going to be on the bench, but came onto the bench when Kane went off. I think the Chiefs are missing a lot of players, but at the end of the day, they've been winning with missing lots of players. So that's not something to take away from the Jaguares in this game by any stretch. Okay then, yellow cards. The first one, kicking, box kick happening, player in the normal guard position. We have the Jaguares player jump in the air to try and block the kick and get hooked by the defending player's arm and flipped over onto the ground. A clear-cut yellow card, I think.
Yeah, I do agree. My initial thought was not that it was a yellow card, but after seeing all the angles and seeing where he was standing and the arm go out, I don't think the referee had any other option but to give it.
Brent reckons the first yellow was soft. I'm sorry. As soon as the guy puts his arm out, it's a yellow all day. If he stands there with and holds his arm in and doesn't, then it's the jumping player's fault. But as soon as he puts that arm out, puts it around the guy's waist, then it's a yellow. You've taken a player in the air, and it's all over. Brent reckons it was milked. I'm sorry. Once the player's in the air, where's he going to go? That wasn't milked. That was how. That's the Kiwi commentators agreed. They said, "Yep, in this day and age, that's a clean yellow. There's nothing to argue about it."
Yes, and intent or lack thereof is irrelevant. As you say, once the arm went out, and whether it's instinctive or not, again, irrelevant. It was a clear-cut yellow card.
So, yeah, exactly. Brent says, puts his arm out, penalty, not a yellow. Sorry, as soon as he puts his arm out, he's created an offence, and if the player gets flipped out, goes beyond the horizontal, it's a yellow. So, yes, exactly. It's not about intent. I don't think there's any malice by the player. I don't think that wasn't what you call a spear tackle or anything silly like that. But yeah, it is what it is. The Jaguares do exactly what they should do. Kicks the corner, line out maul. We have a collapsed maul short of the line. Penalty try, do you think, or was that, or had the referee already got in his head that the Jaguares were up at this point?
I could see it coming. As the commentators suggested, I'm not sure if they did get the correct man, but look, I thought it was brought down. I thought it was brought down deliberately, and I thought if it wasn't brought down that the Jaguares were going to score. So in my mind, that makes it a penalty try. So
yeah, when you sort of talk it through in that kind of way, yep, have to agree. Makes a lot of sense. We see a lot of line-out mauls coming down like that, and not been giving us penalty tries. So I thought it was a little bit harsh on the first attempt that it was called. But if he's seen somebody in there taking it down, then you're right. He has to. He can make that call. But yeah, I've seen a couple of replays, and it's, well, as every maul is, it's a mass of bodies It's I think it was him. Kind of guess. And maybe it was a bit of a team card for Messam there. But if you're in the middle there and it looks like you're bringing it down, you're putting yourself. You're giving the referee the opportunity, which you don't really want to do.
Yeah, and look, you're right. It may well be one that's not given 10 times out of 10. But having said that, I still think it's hard to argue that it was an incorrect decision. And that might sound a bit contradictory to some people, but
I thought it was a little bit harsh. As soon as you give a penalty try, you know it's coming with a yellow. That's just pretty much how the rules work nowadays, or the laws. Sorry, before anyone jumps down my throat, that's how the laws work nowadays. So yeah, and then I thought that the Jaguares played some pretty dumb rugby for the next 10 minutes. They were trying to play it wide. The Chiefs' defence changed very quickly and very intelligently to play an inside-out defence rather than the player rushing up and trying to cut off rather than outside-in defence, which we see a lot of New Zealand sides doing. And I felt the Jaguares played straight into that by trying to play wide and getting pushed towards the sidelines.
I know that in general Australian rugby commentators aren't thought of particularly highly by a lot of New Zealanders, but Rod Kafer did a piece on Australian TV a couple of nights ago, and he pinpointed the difference between the way the Crusaders and the Brumbies each played last week when there were players from opposing teams yellow carded, and what he said made a lot of sense, and he demonstrated how much better the Crusaders did it than the way that the Brumbies did it when they were 15 on 13, and the Jaguares did not play cleverly at all. And it raises the question, I think, also as to how much teams actually train for these kind of scenarios.
Yeah, we know teams definitely train to defend with 14. But yeah, how much they train to attack on 14? That's an interesting point. I hadn't really thought about that one through. The training for defence, I know happens. Whether teams will admit to it or not, we know it does. Oh dear, we just had Steve has just joined the Cornflakes Crib has just joined the live chat, and because someone was asking his opinion on yellow cards, he's a regular contributor to this show. If you haven't seen this before,
yes.
I thought, look, we talked earlier about how they were picking and going early doors, getting success out of it. The Chiefs were down 2 forwards, not backs. So
yes.
Where are the gaps going to be? They're going to be around the ruck. If you pick and go, you're going to create some spaces inside, and you're going to be able to capitalise on it. And the Jaguares didn't try that even once during that 10 minutes.
Yep, and if not, you're going to suck in a few inside backs, and then you've earned the right to go wider, and that's the time to do it, not before.
Yep. I hate that term.
should have been in the cliche rugby chat.
The cliche rugby chat, yes. I think the Jaguares played very dumb there. David, who was on last week with me for the Blues game, was texting me going, "Oh dear, I think the Chiefs are going to win a narrow, tough game here because the Jaguares really butchered their opportunities there. They knocked on over the line, and they let the Chiefs defend them well there." I think the Chiefs survived those 2 yellow cards pretty well. Then we had the
no try. That was
the no try. Yes, exactly. I'm trying to read my own notes here. 63 minutes. That's right. Yeah, go wide and kick. It says Jags didn't clean up and very poor kick in 22 and Charlie runs it back. So there you go. That's the level of my notes taking. But yes, they tried to go wide. I think it was from a scrum, or it was from some sort of set piece. They kicked it deep, wasn't cleaned up very well. Kicked it wide, and you're like, oh dearie me, that is one of the worst kicks of the season in your own 22. he had time to let it bounce one more time and touch it down, but he panicked, didn't he, at that point?
That's what I thought, and it looked, and I could be widely criticised for saying this, but it looked like, you know, it was a prop who'd picked up the ball close to their line and he's tried to chuck it on the left foot because he was never going to make it into touch from there. And, you know, the Chiefs probably deserved to score from it. It was a horrible piece of play by him.
And I think that knock-on was dubious at best. I think the angle that the Timo had to look at it was not conclusive by any stretch of the imagination. It may have gone forward, it may have gone straight down, it may have gone slightly backwards. I think from that angle you couldn't tell.
I think that it may have gone forward. However, I would agree that there probably wasn't conclusive evidence to change the on-field decision.
Yep. So anyway, he did change it, and the Jaguares got a bit of a let-off there. What I found interesting then after that was, Charlie Nartai was officially the captain of this game, and they had, because of that kick and it was a player offside, they had the choice at that point to either take a penalty from where from towards the end of 22 or take a 5-metre scrum. We had Kano, not Kano, because he plays for the Blues. What kind of names am I trying to say tonight? Liam Messam holding onto the ball next to the referee. The referee looking around, who's going to tell me what to do here? Guys, you've got a scrum here, a penalty here or a scrum on the 5-metre line. And the player making the call, interestingly enough, was Damien McKenzie. Didn't wait for Charlie Nartai to come in. Everyone looked at Damien and said, okay, Damien, what are we doing? And for Liam Messam, a guy of his experience, to be looking at Damien McKenzie in that situation, I thought was very telling that as to where that leadership structure in that team is.
I would also venture to say that it's quite difficult to captain effectively from 15.
Yep.
And teams.
Hence,
teams.
Why would you name your captain at 15 then?
Well, exactly. Teams would naturally be looking to, probably your 2, your 9, and your 10. 8 maybe is also. So
normally it'd be Sam Cane is captain.
Exactly.
In that situation, of course, Cane was out. Brody Retallick was out at that point. So I'd have thought Messam would have picked up the mantle, but no. It was Damien McKenzie calling for a scrum. Interestingly enough, the guy who's not involved in it, off you go, boys, sort it out for me, please. And the scrum early doors had been good, but in that second half, the Jaguares really got on top in that area.
They did, and they probably didn't quite take as much advantage of it as they should have when it was 15 on 13, and the Chiefs were down to 6 forwards. The Chiefs, in the first half, the Chiefs scrum was definitely dominant, and you could see on their own feed they were clearly dominant, but the Jaguares were still quite effective at controlling their own ball. The Chiefs didn't really, I thought, disrupt the Jaguares ball. It was more the dominance that they showed on their own feed.
Yeah, and that's. But at this point, I was surprised that when you've not had that dominance, you can kick 3 here, close it down because you got to score twice anyway. I was surprised they went for that scrum. The scrum went backwards. Fine. The stats say that the Chiefs won all their scrums, but it wasn't clean ball by any stretch in this situation. I thought they should have gone blind. They went open, and it broke down, and they didn't get the points, which was and then. They gave up penalties and allowed the Jaguares to basically march down the pitch.
I thought there were a few scrums actually where it was a bit messy between the 8 and the 9 there at the back by the Chiefs. And it just looked a bit slow, not too crisp.
And I think hasn't their first choice number 8 just been injured for the season, and therefore I think they've got a backup in there at the moment. And obviously Webber's just coming back from injury as well, so
correct.
It's all. They've just not got the combinations there at the moment because of injuries, which is not helping matters.
No, and it showed. Yep.
Penalties at this point killed the Chiefs because it marched down the field. The commentators were all like, Jaguares kicks the corner. I'm like, no, they're 8 points ahead. Knock this one over the sticks, and you're forcing the Chiefs to score 2 tries to win the game in the last 10 minutes, and they've not scored a try yet in the first 70. Your odds-on favourites to win if they can't score in 70 minutes. They're not going to score 2 in 10. Knock over the 3, and the Jaguares did.
Exactly, and we tend to go chew up a little bit of time, and with the music still blaring in the background, he knocked it over.
I didn't notice that one. So interesting sportsmanship, and I would be doing the air quotes if my earphones weren't falling off. And at that point, it looked like the Jaguares. At this point, I'm looking, going, okay, yeah, the Jaguares have got this one in the bag, and they had. The Chiefs didn't score a try until after the hooter, as much as they were banging up. A mixture of not the execution in midfield, messing up the lineouts, and as we've talked before, strong Jaguares defence.
Yep, and missed tackles on the Chiefs' part. I think it's really worth again saying how well the Jaguares played, and I don't. I guess there'll be a lot of Chiefs fans who make the point that the refereeing decisions didn't, on the whole, go in their favour. But I thought, at the end of the day, the better team on the night won.
The better team on the night won. Both yellow cards. Well, the first yellow card was definitely obvious. The second one was probable. It wasn't a bad yellow card by any stretch of the imagination. The Jaguares were conceded more penalties than the Chiefs, so to try and blame the ref on this one is baloney. I'm sorry. The Jaguares outplayed the Chiefs, particularly in defence and in the line out. The Jaguares 9 from 9 in their line out. The Chiefs 12 from 16, and with a lot of those wins were with four men in there crowding the midfield, which messed them up. Sure, the Jaguares turned over the ball a little bit more, but their defence was outstanding, and that's what basically won this game.
Absolutely. I think the bonus point, obviously, as the commentators were suggesting, is key for the Chiefs, with a few probably easier games coming up, the Stormers, Sharks and Tars with their next 3.
It's amazing, isn't it? The Chiefs were talking about the Stormers, Sharks and Tars. Stormers and Sharks, especially history teams in this competition, and the Tars. I mean, Tars have won this competition before, and we're talking about them leaving the Jaguares behind for 3 easier games. That, if
wouldn't
nothing else,
have read about it, would you?
If nothing else, that tells you how much the Jaguares have grown and arrived in Super Rugby now.
And what impact is that going to have on their national side come June, or come the Rugby Championship later on?
So let's go. I'm going to dive into this rabbit hole because this is one I'm key on. So one of the things they've gone and done is they have changed their selection policy for the national team. So from now through to Rugby World Cup, if you're eligible for Argentina, you can be selected. No longer do you have to play in Super Rugby or in Argentina. So suddenly there's a competition for Pumas jerseys. At the same time, we've seen the Jaguares step up their level of play. Is that a coincidence? Is it down to that extra driver that you don't know you've got your Pumas jersey, so you have to fight for it more? Is it the coming of age, getting more used to being Super Rugby? Is it improved coaching? I'm not sure. But I think there's potentially a little bit of something there that the challenge for Pumas jerseys means that it means you have to perform at this level. There's no comfy ride anymore.
Whatever it is, hang on to it, because I think World Rugby really needs those lower tier 1 and tier 2 nations to step up, and I think that for the World Game, and as you say, especially come Rugby World Cup time, that's for the betterment of the game as a whole. Yep.
And let's just looking just at some of the player stats. So obviously we said defence was where this was won. So Fuente and Orlando were called out by the commentators, but Fuente 10 tackles, only missed 2. is a good shift in the centre department. Both starting props got through over. Bota 10 tackles, none missed. Chapereau 11 tackles, none missed. So some fantastic work by the props there. And Creamer, a name we'll all know, did well with 11. Now,
the 6 and the 7 were excellent, I thought, for the Jaguares.
Lizana, also, 7 tackles, none missed, did very well as well. Yeah, lots of work there. I hate to stick it, but that's just one of the things. Whenever I talk about the Jaguares, I've always got to look at Lavanini, because he is such a penalty and card magnet. Got himself involved in a little pushing and shoving tonight. You could see him smiling at Brody Retallick, going, "Come on, let's have it." You could and it would, in some ways, you kind of know, I hate fighting, but it would be fun to put those two into a M&M cage, wouldn't it? Let's see what happened. Anyway, hats off to Lavanini. No penalties all game. Well done, sir, because you have just been such a liability in the past. So, congrats to him for that. I know no one gave up more than 2 penalties. Most, obviously, it's around scrum time is quite a lot of them, so I'm not going to bother with that. Quickly onto the Crusaders side. Obviously missing Sam Cane.
Chiefs
side, sorry. The Crusaders are playing next, aren't they, with the Rebels?
They're playing now.
They're playing now, are they? Oh, sorry, we've overrun. Sorry, everybody. You'll all be deserting us to watch the game. So very quickly, Allardyce had a good game, even with the he picks up the yellow card, didn't he? I'm just trying to remember now. Even with the yellow card, got through a lot of work. And on the attacking side, obviously Damien got through a lot of work. Pulu actually had a good return from injury.
He did, definitely.
And obviously Tukelet and Buffelli, 2 names who got through a lot of work, even if Moyano did get the try. Any final points you want to have it sort of bring up?
Look, I think that there'll be a lot of Australians at least, and possibly some Kiwis as well, who are going to adopt the Jaguares as their second team, and I think it would be wonderful to see them make a charge to the top of the conference.
Yeah, they are a lot of points behind the Lions already, though, unfortunately. But they really, this last 4 games on tour, something that the Lions did about 3 years ago was that they, 3 or 4 years ago, was they really turned their season round on tour, and and then made a big push. Maybe we're going to see something like that from the Jaguares as well. That they're going to use this to push on.
It's great for the confidence, isn't it?
It's amazing for the confidence. Yeah, to do this, you're away from home, you're away from distractions, you're together as a group, and if you can and they changed 5 players from the game over the Blues, so it's not like they've been flogging the same set of players throughout these 4 games either. They have been rotating them. It is a squad effort that's done this.
I don't think anyone could ever accuse the Jaguares of trotting out the same 15 week after week, mate.
Very true. Which is why some of us actually, we know some of the names better than others. But impressive game for them, totally deserved, and long may it continue. So, Hugh, your Twitter account is straight above your head as a logo in the show notes, but let people know where they can get hold of you between shows.
Yep, on Twitter, Hef0909. Always happy to chat rugby.
Cool. And you can see DrivingMaul is now up there, with a new broadcasting thing. Also, please do subscribe to the channel, because we are making a big push to increase our audience, and it would be really appreciated if you did that. Also, if you would like to get an email into your inbox every Thursday with links to all the videos, then check out the pinned comment below and sign up for the newsletter as well. Thank you, everybody, for your time, and enjoy whatever rugby you are watching.